Buc-ee's hiring, Buc-ee's gas station. If you've never heard of Buc-ee's, it's an amusement park of a gas station. There are more pumps than you can imagine, and as you go into the store, they sell barbecues, smokers. Wait until you see this. Wait until you see this. Look at this.
Everything is bigger in Texas, people.
They've got cowhides. If you ever go to a gas station, you want to get a cowhide. Toys, stuff.
This is a chain. Apples. This is a chain in America.
That okay. Food. You know what? I'll grab some watermelon. This is more.
Watermelon was good.
This is an experience. Burritos, tacos. Just gonna get some watermelon. That's it. This is Buc-ee's, people. Outrageous. Now, you got Mr. Buc-ee right here.
You have to stop if you see a Buc-ee.
Samples.
I didn't get the food
bathroom, though. More fruits.
All right, come on, get with it here.
Okay.
There's a funny ending to this.
Sorry. Jesus. Okay, let's go.
They're everywhere, and they buy up advertising on the highway. It's ridiculous.
This is not a place where you come if you have social anxiety. Holy cow. Gotta get out. All right. It's wild. This is great. You want to be in the video?
What's up?
How do you find Buc-ee's? Have you ever been to a Buc-ee's?
Yeah, I'm from here.
Okay, well, this is we're having an experience.
It's crazy.
All right, first of all, it's in Florida. That was on the border of Florida and Georgia. If you don't know what Buc-ee's is, said David Langford says, get the roast beef. We actually had a bit of a problem. They wouldn't let us in with the dogs. So I had to find an alternative solution just so I can get some gum so I couldn't fall asleep while I was driving, and water for the dogs. All right, people. That was the intro. I was going to start with the Justin Trudeau clip, but I think we're going to talk about so much today that's going to make you want to puke that we didn't have to start with something that would make you want to puke. This is installment number 2 with the Gadfather, Gad Saad. Now, I remember the last time, and I think it was the first time. Well, Gad was on my channel. I was on his. I remember when he was on my channel, I was in quarantine because this was back in the time when science was prevailing. And if a kid came in contact, même en passant, with someone who tested positive for COVID, you had to take that kid and put that kid in quarantine for, I think it was 10 days or 5 to 10 days at the time. Science people. And I was like, I'm not putting any kid in quarantine anywhere, ever, full stop. I don't care if the government says lock up your 10-year-old in a room solitary for 5 days. So I took the kid and my wife, and we went up to the cottage, and we were fortunate enough to be able to escape the tyranny at my parents' cottage. And that's where I remember doing the podcast with Gad Saad. Konstantin, I can see your comments. So I have not shadow banned anybody. The dogs are going to bother me. Okay, that's the intro, people. I want to let everyone trickle in. Share the link around because Gad is going to come on. We're going to go from a parasitic mind to happiness, if such a thing can be found in this world. And full disclosure, I have not read Gad Saad's book. Not a question of shade or laziness. I can't read until the audio comes out. I'm not going to be. So I have a synopsis of sorts. All right, Gad, enough with the intro. I think we've done it enough here. Well, let me just make sure we are live on Rumble. Are we live on Rumble? We're live on Rumble. Good. And we're live on Locals. And hopefully the internet keeps up. I got a text? Okay. I'm in a hotel room with my kid. He's being very good and letting me stream extensive periods of time after spending all day in a car driving. Okay, we'll talk about it. Okay, Gad, I'm bringing you in. Everyone share the link. This is going to be awesome. Gad, sir, let me see. Do I want to do it like this? Yeah, this is good.
Viva.
Sir, how goes the battle?
the battle of living in Quebec, Canada, the battle of being so good looking in a world of ugly people. What is it?
Let's say the battle of being so good looking while living in Quebec and Canada, while working at your university, which back 20 years ago was politically difficult. I don't want to get you in trouble. What is everything? What are you up to these days?
Well, still a professor at Concordia. I can't believe it, but it's 29 years. I joined Concordia University straight out of my PhD in 1994. We're 2023. So I just completed. So on June 1st, I will be starting my 30th year. I can't believe that's possible. I had a few little visiting professorships at Dartmouth, at Cornell, at UC Irvine, but I'm still at Concordia. As you kindly mentioned in your intro, I have a book that's coming out. This one right here.
Other side.
This side, yeah. I have this book coming out in nearly 2 months from now, on July 25th. So I've been busy. I was wrapping that up, going through the galley proofs, clearing the cover and so on. And just trying to live a good life, man. How you been?
Well, I've been living in exile. I'm in Florida now. I've been here we're finishing 1 year already, and 1 year on a 3-year visa, and then we'll see where the world is, at the end of the 3 years. But Gad, I think everybody knows who you are. They should, but for those who might be meeting you for the first time, the 30,000-foot overview, and then we're going to get into the thick of things.
Sure. Well, first, I should mention, thank you so much for having me on again. I loved so much our first. I mean, as you said, you've come on my show, I've come on yours. So thank you for having me again. So I'm an evolutionary / consumer psychologist. So what does that mean? My background is in psychology of decision making. I mean, my academic background, my scientific background. So way back in my doctoral dissertation, I studied how much information do people look at before they stop acquiring additional information and commit to a choice. That's called a stopping decision, because it's literally, how do you stop and say, I'm ready to move to Florida. I'm ready to vote for Hillary Clinton. I'm ready to marry this person, right? There's an information search process. And then at some point you say, I'm ready to choose. I don't need to look at more information. So my original training was in what's called behavioral decision theory, psychology of decision making. And very early in my academic career, I had become exposed to evolutionary psychology, which is the application of the theory of evolution to the most important organ in our body, which is our mind. So how the human mind evolved to have the cognitive, behavioral, emotional systems that it does. And so what I ended up doing for the past nearly 3 decades in my scientific career is apply evolutionary biology and evolutionary psychology to study human behavior in general and consumer behavior in particular. So that's the big story of my academic background. Do you want to interject, or do you want me to go on?
No, go on. Actually, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to take notes, but yeah, go on.
So my scientific career is at the intersection of biology, psychology, and behavioral sciences. I'm housed in a business school precisely because I try to apply many of these cognitive disciplines in studying economic decision making, consumer decision making, and so on. So that's why I'm housed in a business school. Now, in addition to that, I'm someone who has never felt the compunction to just be a stay in your lane professor. Many professors, they know their research area very well, so they keep pumping out many papers within this area, and they never stray out of their lanes. Whereas for me, both in my academic career, I've been very interdisciplinary. I like to navigate through many intellectual landscapes. Actually, something that I talk about in the happiness book. Variety seeking is an important pursuit in seeking happiness. But also, I've been a get out of your lane professor in that I like to speak to Viva Frei, and I like to speak to guys who are not necessarily in academia. Anybody with whom I could have an interesting conversation, I'm perfectly happy to hold such a conversation, which regrettably, most academics are certainly not rewarded for doing so. And in many cases, universities have traditionally condemned you, have not looked upon that with glee, because you should only be speaking to fellow highbrow people, to highfalutin people who are smart like you in the ivory towers. Don't speak to the rubes and the plebs and the great unwashed. And that's never been my style. The game that I play is I create knowledge and I want to disseminate it to as many people as possible. So I write book for the masses. I appear on popular shows. I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to hopefully spread good ideas. So that's generally what's been keeping me busy for the past 30 years.
Now, so when you wrote Parasitic Mind in 2016, give or take, or was it
Well,
early?
no, I started writing it around 2017, but it came out in 2020.
And that was your. I don't want to ask a stupid question. Was that
No,
your?
no, no.
That's not
No,
your
it's not my
first
first
published.
book. No, no, no.
Okay.
So the first book, let me see if I can pull them out here for you. Let's do a massive. The first book is this one.
Yeah. So let's see this. They go from academic to political
so this
of
is a
sorts.
hardcore academic book. This is a technical book that seeks to demonstrate how you could apply evolutionary thinking and studying consumer behavior. So that's number one. Then I did this book, which was an edited book. Also, let me go this way.
Evolutionary Psychology in the Business Scientist. Sounds fascinating.
Yeah. So this place. You're being sarcastic?
No, I was trying to be sarcastic, but it actually does sound extremely interesting.
No, it's actually really it's I mean, if I can say it's actually really fun, because what you're basically doing in this book is demonstrating how you could apply the evolutionary lens in many business disciplines. How do you apply evolutionary psychology in entrepreneurship and retailing and behavioral economics and behavioral finance? In my field, consumer psychology, and so on. So it's basically Darwinizing the business school. So that was the second book. The third one, this is the one where let me go this way. The Consuming Instinct, What Juicy Burgers, Ferraris, Pornography, and Gift-Giving Reveal About Human Nature. This was written for the masses. The Parasitic Mind, which Parasitic Mind, which I'm going to come to in a second, is another one that, in a sense, I've been collecting the information for that book for 30 years, because what the Parasitic Mind is about is the idea pathogens that have been proliferating on university campuses, causing us to hold these insane ideas. So this one was the first trade book that I wrote. By trade book, it means it's not written for academics, it's written for the masses. This one, which I completed, it came out in 2020. Now, this one, though, is about negative mindsets, right? How bad ideas can parasitize your mind. And so the current one, which is this one, the final one, thank you for giving me the forum to plug all these. This one is about, okay, well, how do we adopt positive mindsets? How do we
bring it back up? Bring it back up for a second, Gad.
Yeah.
Okay, because you want to know how dense I can be sometimes. It's called The Sad Truth About Happiness. And I didn't even get the pun until I was listening to you on Dr. Drew, because when I look at your last name, I don't see the word sad as in sadness. I only see it as in the last name. I never even made the connection. So
really?
Until I'm driving up here listening to the podcast of you on Dr. Drew, I was like, oh my goodness, The Sad Guide to Happiness. Now I get, and I feel like an idiot. Okay, so and now this book is, well, The Parasitic Mind, for those who don't know, is basically about how we are, not cannibalizing, but rather destroying society, destroying ourselves through, grotesque ideas of tolerance, which leads to intolerance, relativism, which leads to, I don't know what.
Well, the acceptance of cultural and religious practices that are antithetical to human dignity. That would be one example.
And you took now. I mean, we need to contextualize all of this. One chapter in Parasitic Mind dealt with a critique of Islam, which for the university at which you are a professor. I mean, that's like. That's like walking down a trans parade with a big banner that says boys have penises, girls have vaginas. I mean, that's how provocative it would be. So people need to understand, contextualize. Writing The Parasitic Mind while working at Concordia. Concordia has been politically active, I would say like politically toxic since I was in university, which is 20 plus years ago. You've been there for longer. Has it always been the way it is now? Politically,
it has, in the sense that it's always been very leftist, very, very much of student activism, quite a strong bent of anti-Semitism. You may remember that in 2002,
Benjamin Netanyahu was blocked from speaking.
Very much. Now, at the time, I was a professor for 2 years at University of California, Irvine. I had taken a visiting professorship, so I wasn't at Concordia, but he was completely shut down. So yes, there has been a tradition at Concordia of having these kind of ultra woke activists before the term woke existed, right? So, for example, the Communication Studies Department and all these, Simone de Beauvoir Institute, radical feminism, postmodernism. So many of the idea pathogens that I discuss in the Parasitic Mind would certainly have found a happy home at Concordia. But, this is certainly not unique to Concordia, right? You can go to Brown University or Oberlin College or Wellesley College or Harvard University, and you will find maybe slightly more staunch parasitic ideas or slightly less, but it's not a unique phenomenon to Concordia, where there are professors and intellectuals. Regrettably, there are profoundly stupid ideas, because, as I always remind people, it takes intellectuals to come up with some of the dumbest bullshit. And so,
good way of putting it.
yeah, no, but it really is true, and I don't say it to be facetious or to be bombastic. It really is the case that it's academics that come up with some of the nonsense that we see. I mean, George Orwell had sort of intimated a similar sentiment many, many years ago, and usually, Viva, it happens in departments where the professors can pontificate the nonsense perfectly decoupled from reality, right? There is no feedback loop that tests their ideas. And this is, by the way, one of the reasons why it's taken longer for these parasitic ideas to, let's say, enter the engineering school or the business school, because those schools are wedded to reality, right? I mean, you can't build an economic model of consumer choice using postmodernist mathematics. There is no such thing. You can't build a bridge using postmodernist physics. So they're not fully inoculated from this bullshit, but at least the nature of what we study in those schools makes it a bit more difficult for the nonsense to spread.
So, and people have to appreciate this. We didn't have the term woke, but I distinctly remember, because I was in McGill in 98 to 2002. And I remember them blocking Benjamin Netanyahu because I think it was the second intifada. Something was going on in Israel. And they said, we're not having this purveyor of hate and destruction speak at Concordia. And I remember at the time thinking, okay, this is antithetical to university life. And I was happy to be at McGill to judge Concordia. So we had this. It just seems like it's gotten jacked up with steroids in the last 10 years. But you've seen an evolution where it's just gotten more and more toxic over the decades.
It's just today I posted a satirical typical day at the university. I think I might have sent it.
Yeah,
you
sent it to me.
Do you want me to read some of it?
Well, yeah, read it. And hold on. Actually, before you read it, we're going to read it over at Rumble, because we're going to go over to Rumble now. And we'll do this entirely on Rumble, and I'll post this to YouTube tomorrow. But so everyone, come over to Rumble. And before we do that, actually, I'll just read these two super chats. One says, "I can only watch and not comment on Rumble, so here's a token of my gratitude to you both before we switch over." Maureen, thank you very much. And Gad, what strategies should the right implement to battle the leftists take over institutions? Okay, we're going to keep this question for the end, but everyone head over to Rumble, because we're going to end on YouTube in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, Gad.